do we want to talk about some of our favorite Vader moments
Yeah.
now, before we get into the book then?
Yeah, I would
Since we're
say
already
so.
talking about James here. When we were going through it, I struggled a little bit through some of it because I thought about like there's so much that makes Vader Vader. I think the voice is one thing that helps to make Vader who he is, but there's also just like the presence that the person has who's in the suit and stuff too. You know,
Yeah.
David has passed as well some time ago, and like the presence that he had, like one of the reasons he's in that suit is because of like how intimidating and scary
absolutely.
and stuff he can be. So
Yeah.
there's a lot of elements of like what makes Vader Vader. So like I kind of struggle being like, do I want moments where it's like, well, this is because of his voice here? Is it because of what he's doing?
I
Is it because of
understand, yeah.
So it was kind of tough because some things I was like, well, this isn't really a James Earl Jones kind of related thing, but I really like this Vader moment, you know? Like,
Well, then there's also the distinction you have to make. I don't know if you have to make it, because I could argue the other way, but this isn't my top Anakin Skywalker moments. This is my top Darth Vader moments.
Sure.
And I want to say, off the bat, I had to disqualify it, and my favorite moment is when he saves Luke. But Vader doesn't do that. Anakin does.
I get what you mean. Yeah.
But I could also say that the Vader-Anakin split, it's fun to talk about, especially in terms of psychology and that type of thing, but ultimately, it is the same person. Like, that is one man divided on himself. You know?
I get what you mean. I also, like, for the same reason, I didn't take into account Anakin and Obi-Wan fighting on Mustafar, where it's like, well, at that point, he's Vader, right? Like, he's already been knighted as Darth Vader. He's
But he's not to
coming
us.
into the temple and attacking and stuff. You know? Like,
but for
that.
us, he's still Anakin. For Obi-Wan, it's Anakin, please, you know? Like, even though he is Vader in that moment, I think I, as a watcher, am refusing to acknowledge it. So I didn't think about it either.
Yeah. I thought about it, but I'm like, well, no. And then I was like, well, when, in the suit, like after the events of Mustafar, when he gets into the suit and Palpatine puts him in there, now he's more machine now than man kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like, these are the times when it's like Vader. And I think that, I think there's some still really good times there, even if you don't take like the very beginning and the very end. There's so much in between that was really good.
Yeah. So, yeah, my list goes through, I have movies, television, I got other stuff in here. We should say that we, while we are, I want to say dipping our toe into extra material that's not, television or movies, we've been doing it for quite some time now. So I actually have a couple things on my list that we've covered on Badonkagong.
Gotcha.
But we should say that we're not exhaustive with all of our knowledge about canon Darth Vader especially. And if there's a thing on this list that, or there's something that you think that should be on the list that's not because we're dissing it. We just might literally not know about it. And also, I'm excited because if that's on your list, I can't wait to get to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, do you want to start? Or do you want me to start with these here?
Let's have you start, Aaron.
All right. For my number 5, I started with A New Hope. I went with more of the classic. One of the I try to go in my head. I'm like, okay, what are the first things I think of when I'm like, what's my favorite Vader kind of moment?
Yeah.
What are things that comes to mind? And I jumped to the lack of faith disturbing moment, right? The choking on the Death Star of I forget the Imperial's name, but yeah, you gotta dive into your
I know, right?
knowledge.
His name is Mahdi. Antonio Mahdi?
Yada, yada, yada. But in that moment there was some things I was thinking about as to like, why do I like it? And of course, like, the delivery of I find your lack of faith disturbing. Like, I do like when Vader uses these moments. Yeah. I won't mention some of the other ones necessarily in case they're on your list or anything.
Sure.
But there's several times when he kind of has like those almost puns or dark humor moments.
He has fun with it sometimes.
I do like I do like Vader kind of like I'm having fun being evil kind of moments. But also, I think I was trying to think, and I didn't have time to go through. I was going to watch A New Hope, but I don't believe you see Vader use any powers until this moment. Like, this is the first time you see someone like using the Force to do like a Force choke. You get some talk, I think, maybe from like maybe Luke or Obi-Wan or whatever. Maybe before that,
it's our only example of telekinesis in that movie. And I only call it telekinesis because I know it's telekinesis.
Sure.
Right? I know he's using the Force to choke someone, as opposed to if I'm watching it the first time, I have no reason not to think that he's pushing air away from his head or something.
Yeah.
You know?
What's he doing there? You know.
Yeah.
But like that's that first time I think too that besides just having that kind of dark humor moment, he's also using power that's not just him. Like you see him lift a man up and hold him up above, you know, and then throw him into a wall, and like, oh well, he's really strong.
Yeah.
But now you're getting into like, oh, there's more here than just he's a strong suited individual, you know.
It's just such a great scene too because it does so much work so quickly. Like Mahdi gives you what everybody thinks about Jedi. It's like, what? That's bull. None of that's there. I mean, we had Luke kind of be like, Jedi, cool, you know?
Yeah.
But we get to see like what the galaxy thinks of the Jedi, or at least how they are now. And being able to just have someone mock it and then have someone immediately give you proof as an audience member and for Mahdi as well. It's
the Force hasn't done anything.
Yeah,
it hasn't found the rebel base.
It can take your breath away.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
So that was mine. I thought, I mean, it also starts with A New
that.
Hope. It starts in the very beginning, but like getting that first glimpse of Vader's power, I just think is a good moment there for that.
Yeah. I will. This will be mine for my number 5. I love this one. Also from the original trilogy. This is Return of the Jedi. And this is one of the ones where I do kind of like, you blur the line of Anakin and Vader a little bit, but this is purely Vader. And it is too late for me, son. Like, I love that scene so much because it's the first time in how many years that someone reaches out to Anakin Skywalker and says, like, I accept you.
Yeah.
The reason Darth Vader exists is because Anakin cannot accept himself. He certainly doesn't think anybody will accept his choices and what he's done. He has to mentally, subconsciously create a whole new persona because he's so afraid of that rejection now, you know? And I love that, like, he's kind of cocky, and yeah, we got Luke, and then when Luke says that, like, his whole demeanor changes. Like, his body language changes. And it's, like, one of the first times that, like, that scene's over, and he just, like, looking out into the jungle, and he's, I love that moment. And it's a Darth Vader moment. It's the first crack in his armor.
It's like the moment when Clark turns into Superman in the Christopher Reeves movie, right? Like, when you see him, like, change the way he's, like, it, yeah.
Like, I truly believe that when he's looking out in that jungle, Anakin Skywalker is looking through his mask.
Sure.
Just for a moment.
I do love, like, those moments that, like, the shows, the movies, the books toy with, like, little bits of, like, is this an Anakin thing popping through here? And then, like, you know, Vader comes back through, you know?
I mean, in terms of the fantasy, in terms of, like, you know, having a solid villain and that type of thing, I really do appreciate that we, as a fandom, like, drill into ourselves. No, it's a different person. He's not the same person, you know?
Sure.
We try to keep it separated. It's a clear break in personality and character. But I think that kind of diminishes what he goes through. And a little tiny bit of his return to Anakin Skywalker. But again, I'll leave it off the list. I just love it so much. So I had to go Return of the Jedi. I'll shift to that one.
Sure, yeah. No, I totally understand that.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Going into the next stuff I have, I wanted to kind of get into... So the idea of Vader, like, I remember watching the original trilogy, and I think, like, he's a cool villain. I think that there's, like, some scariness to him. I think there's a great redemption story there. But I also think that, like, through a lot of the original trilogy, as a kid, I don't think I was, like, terrified of him as a villain. Does that make sense? Like, I really started to enjoy, after that, like, more elements of Vader being so scary and intimidating and all that kind of stuff, too.
I definitely had phases. Like, I don't remember experiencing for the first time, so I also don't really find him scary. Yeah. It's only after the prequels came out that I found it scary.
Sure, yeah, right? Like, there's got to be a lot more sinister stuff, I think. Like, I mean, him choking out Imperials, like, I also didn't necessarily care about the Imperials as much, you know? But, like, there's definitely a little bit of a sinister bit there.
Sure.
But
then,
then
I was gonna say, like, my phases too. Like, then I get a little older, get my teenage years. I'm a little more edgy, and I'm like, yeah, Darth Vader's sweet, you know?
Sure, yeah.
And I'm like, he can kill anybody, and you know, I can power scale him, and like he'll beat Doctor Doom. I'll get pissed off that Doctor Doom beat him in the death battle, you know, that type of thing. But now I've kind of settled into just like like an acceptance of like that's what he did.
Yeah.
And thank God Luke reached out to him because no one else would.
Yeah.
You know?
Exactly.
Yeah.
But through that too, and you said about the prequels and stuff too, but like, Vader can be as intimidating as he can to the characters that I know don't still carry on over into the next movies and stuff. But there's something about when you have someone you don't know what their future is and they come across Vader for like the first time. Mm-hmm. So for me, I was putting number 4 as being the Fallen Order reveal.
Ooh, okay.
When you've gone through like that last big fight there with Trilla, and then the story's going through, and then you just
everything changes.
You just hear and he comes out, and then it turns into a thing where it's like you're not fighting this, you're just trying to survive this, and it seems it's so scary of like you just have to escape, you have to get out.
That exactly like the prompt for what to do is escape.
Yeah,
that's terrifying. Yeah. There's not do your best.
No. And like in the next game and stuff too, you get some fun moment with like fighting against, and you're like, ooh, maybe we can survive this and take this out and stuff too. But in that first one where like, you've been like reconnecting to the Force, you're not like quite like a real strong Jedi, but you've been building up a little bit, and then he comes out and it's all the things he does, the things he's moving, like you feel so weak compared to all the stuff he can do. And it's like in the horror movies almost when like you're running away from like Michael Myers and you're like, he just keeps coming. I can't do anything about this. And I think that's a fun moment, especially in like a game where you're playing the character. It's not just you're watching something happen. I think that was one of my favorite like Vader moments and great reveal for like the end of the game.
I love it too. My only thing that when I think about it sometimes is I'm thinking like, does this mean anything to Cal? Like, Cal doesn't know him. Like, Sears, like, it's him, and I can feel that.
Sure, yeah.
But Cal, when it's like, what does he say exactly? Cal just has like, well, yeah, I'll try, but, and then the escape prompt happens, and the fear came back there. But I remember that very first time being like, does Cal understand how terrifying this is? Because I don't think he does. I do as the player, which is why I turned Cal around and ran. But I also needed to have Cal like go up to him and like he does a couple things. He rips stuff off the wall.
Yeah.
I gotta show like I have to be an immersive player. I have to have Cal realize why this sucks. And leave.
Cal's there. He sees like this person that he's just been fighting that was such a tough battle just do nothing. Yeah. Right. The fear in her face there, and Seer just like he just watched 2 people die. Right.
Yeah.
And it's like, what am I supposed to do with this? And he just bolts, I think, like that's kind of the idea I have with that is like what I've just seen and what I've experienced. I know what Seer can do and I know what Trilla can do. And he didn't care what they could do.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah.
It's not, I don't have it on my list. It's an alternative, but like you mentioned it, the Jedi Survivor boss battle.
Yeah.
In contrast, you do get to have a boss battle there. And for me, it's one of my favorite Star Wars boss battles ever.
Sure. Yeah.
Because the first one is extremely scary and there's nothing you can do. But this one, like the game tricks you into thinking you can.
Yeah, it does.
Like it has 3 phases. The first phase is he barely acknowledges you. He's just like, what are you doing? There's nothing you can do here. And then you kind of prove to him like, hey, you got to take this seriously.
Yeah.
So the second phase, he just shows off. He's like, oh, okay, you want to take it seriously? Sure. And then the third one is when he actually takes it seriously. I love that it's not that he gets more powerful or anything. It's just that he more and more he grows to respect his opponent. But at a certain point, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So I actually, on the flip side, I love them both. But on the flip side, I love that as well because as the player and the character, I knew exactly what this means. And it means I might not make it out of here, Whereas in the first one, I was going like, 1, Cal doesn't know who this is, and 2, I better not die. There better be a sequel.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, so Fallen Order is my number 4 then for him.
Gotcha. Okay. Let's see. My number 4. I want to keep it with the fear aspect. Honestly, a lot of my choices are in the Disney era.
Sure.
I think Vader is one of the things Disney has done right, and a lot of people agree. But from the Obi-Wan show, I actually have 2 of those things on my list. But the first one, my number 4, is I think it's the name of the planet that they're on. It starts with an M. Mapuzo, I think is what it is.
Mapuzo, okay.
Maybe. But either way, it is in the Obi-Wan show where Vader's just walking down the street, and Obi-Wan sees him for the first time. and he's snapping necks, he's killing innocents, and he's just he's doing what the Grand Inquisitor talks about, like a Jedi can be found. All you gotta do is this type of thing. And I love that scene so much. I'm gonna guess it's on your list.
No, not anymore. No, I think like in the idea of like what is a scary moment for Vader, I think that's one of the best ones.
It might be his scariest.
Yeah, like no one can seem to do anything, and he's doing things just nonchalantly. He kills people, just does it.
Yeah.
And it's not like they're fighting back or anything either. Yeah. So it makes it even more terrifying. Because there's another moment that I'm sure is on both our lists where at least there's people fighting back and he's defending himself and killing them for the goal that he's after. But in this one, like these people, they have no idea what's going on. Yeah. They're not part of this at all, really. Like they're just like innocent bystanders, and I think that's what makes it so scary is that he doesn't care.
I know, like he's just using the Force to like drag them.
Like
he could make it quick,
he
doesn't.
No.
He's trying to draw Obi-Wan and Ewan McGregor's performance in that scene because I can't see Vader's face. I can only guess what he looks like.
Yep.
But Ewan McGregor, Vader works sometimes. He works the best when because you can't read him, you have to reflect off another character. You know? So I do love that one, and also an alternative. Well, never mind. Continue.
You just want to keep naming.
I have so many things I want to talk about.
Oh yeah, I know. I have a lot of them too, and there's so much fun Vader stuff that has occurred and stuff too.
Yeah.
For number 3, then I'm gonna go into so Anakin and I think then also Darth Vader. They have a lot of similarities. I think both really good pilots. Both have a lot of emotions, but I think both also are like very tactical. They have very good ideas in war and in battles and ways to plan things out.
I mean, it's one of Anakin's natural Force abilities to wage war, unfortunately.
Yeah. And this one here, like, I don't think a lot of moments that are outside of like the movies and television often stick in my head very well.
Yeah.
But this one here is from a book that I don't know if a lot of people have read or know, but it's through the first actual Thrawn trilogy when we have Thrawn and Vader together, right? And the book's great because I love how like they bounce back and forth. It's probably my favorite Thrawn book because of having Anakin and Thrawn and then also Vader and Thrawn. But it is the moment of you see Vader come out in a battle and stormtroopers are looking at him and being like, oh my gosh, it's Vader, and they're so like happy that he's here. And it's I forget the enemy that he's fighting, but he comes out and they're shooting at him and they like just rock him up with like these weird guns and everything and just and he gets stuck in there.
He gets stuck.
But it's because from previously they tried to do that and he got out of it. But this time he has been hiding and using an extra suit of armor to trick all the enemies into wasting their ammo and their time on this fake armor that he's on the side of the battlefield controlling or something, It's one of those like tactical trickery kind of moments.
It's so extra.
But I love that he uses this, brings it up through.
Yeah.
And then once that's done, now he can come out because they've wasted all of their resources on it.
I love that moment. I think I love your love of that moment more.
I really like I love it. Like I love how it shows how tactical he can be. I love how creative it is.
And it's just it's a flex. Like not many Jedi can do that.
Yeah.
It reminds me of I'm sure we'll talk about later, but Twilight the Apprentice when Vader comes down on his tie.
Yeah.
Like he's using the Force to control that tie.
Well, yeah, he has to.
And I'm pretty sure Malachor has no wind. Like they talk about that. Is he using the Force to ripple his cape?
Yeah, maybe, yeah.
But it's just so extra. But it's so awesome.
I love extra Vader. But this one, also one of the things adjacent to that I really like is that glimpse into the stormtroopers' viewpoints of having Vader show up on the battlefield, which I don't think you get a whole lot of.
Yeah.
Because usually he's looked at as, like you said in the last one, like here's a fearsome, scary entity. And usually see maybe more of that side of things where it's like he's the bad guy. But when he's like on your side and you're getting a glimpse of people on the battlefield, it's almost like in the Clone Wars where like all his clone troopers look to him and look up to him and trust him. This is kind of like on the other side where it's like, oh, good, Vader's here to help us fight whatever we're fighting against from a stormtrooper's perspective. And I like that too.
Yeah, me too.
So that's my number 3.
Alrighty. What is going to be my number 3? I have Thrawn, that was Thrawn Alliances, I think.
Alliances,
yeah. I have that on my alternate list too.
Oh, yeah?
I mean, I love your moment. My favorite is, this isn't on my list. I just wanted to talk about it. My favorite part of that entire thing, and we're going to be talking about Thrawn a little bit later today too, is when Thrawn is kind of like asking about Anakin, and Vader's like, Anakin Skywalker is dead. And Thrawn just, I know. Like, he acknowledges, like, oh yeah, he actually is dead. He kind of plays into that, like, you are Anakin, but you're not thing. And that whole book, like, sets up Thrawn is so good at reading faces, and he can just, like, kind of look into your soul, you know, and tell what you're feeling. But then this giant mechanical monster shows up, and he can't read anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, that book is full of so many great Vader moments and Anakin Skywalker moments. So if you haven't read it, go read it and then check out our review as well.
Yeah. No, I love that. I love the element where he's like, oh, the last time we were here on this planet, whichever one, Batu, I think it was.
Batu, yeah.
Well, you know, he's like, I have never been to Batu. You know, like,
Yeah.
I love all of their interactions in that. So, no, that book is great for a lot of just getting Vader to, like, be an ally, right? Because you're following Thrawn a lot in that, right? So, like, having Vader as an ally versus being the enemy is a fun difference that you don't get a lot, right?
That's the book that he's in, the TIE Defender, too, right?
Yeah, I believe so.
That's fucking sweet.
Yeah. It is. This is a good ship. Keep working on it, you know?
The best pilot in the best ship.
All right. So now that you mentioned that,
Yes,
what is your
okay.
actual number 3?
I am going to go with the dinner party in Bespin.
Okay. Yeah.
We would be honored if you would join us. I love the idea that he's like, okay, so you go get them, right? Go get them and you bring them in here. And you open the door, I'm going to stand up.
I'm going to be right here.
Some cool stuff. He might have a gun. That's okay. I can handle it. You know?
It is.
All right, go.
We do see him just, like, take a blaster bolt to the hand and stop it,
Do you
right?
think
Like,
Vader's extraness is... It's pretty much all he has of Anakin.
I think
That's,
so.
like, still there. Because Anakin did that all the time.
Sure.
And I never really thought about how that is... Like, Anakin would do that. You know?
Yeah. No, it's like
We
the
would
last...
be honored if you would join us.
It's like, okay, I get to kill people, but you know what? I want to have fun doing this stuff too. And it's like I'm already evil and whatnot. And so yeah, I think that's the last little bit of him just kind of getting to be a bit extra.
Just, like,
it's the extraness.
Han throwing out the blaster and like you would think, oh, you're gonna get a lightsaber or he's gonna do something crazy, but he's just like,
give me that.
yeah. Like all the Han fans kind of like sag a little bit and be like, oh, you know, like we were, you know, Han fans were super hyped when he shot him down in space, you know. But when they're outside of the ships, he's just, you know?
Yeah.
So that I when I think of Darth Vader, I almost always think of the White Room and him standing up. I love that so much. And it's a silly moment, too.
Yeah.
But for me, I mean, Star Wars is at its best when it has silliness in it. So, that's going to be mine.
It kind of also goes with a little bit of that, like, the dark humory thing. Like, we'd be honored if you join us.
Be
like,
careful not to choke on your aspirations.
That's another one I really like. That. What's the one when who's he? Is it Piet or I don't remember who it is. One of the Imperials when he's like, apology accepted.
Captain Nita.
Nita, that's what it is. Yeah.
Nita is like, shit, we lost him. All right, well, I'll go apologize to Lord Vader. And then we spend that entire movie seeing him kill people over and over and over again. That we're like, well, that's not going to work out. And they don't even show you. He just falls down dead.
Yeah.
Apology accepted, Captain Nita. And I love that, too, because it then sets up the end of the movie when the guy's coming like, oh, we lost him again, but Vader's going through some stuff right now, and he just turns around and walks away. Yeah. And that makes that powerful. A guy just left the room, and it's one of the most powerful parts of the movie, you know? Great stuff. Man, the original trilogy just slaps, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, this conversation kind of goes in with.
Oh, I missed a super chat. Someone else had one above. I'm sorry, I missed it.
I think it was Free Metroid again.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah, Vader using Force Quake was really cool in Kenobi. That fight was awesome.
Yeah, it was. Your strength has returned, but the weakness remains.
And then Free Metro had also said that line, be careful not to choke on your aspirations, director. Yeah. It's a great one, too.
Yep.
I think in that, too, I'm going to pull, and it's kind of related to this one. I'm going to go with, where are we at, number 2?
Yeah, number 2.
I was really struggling on this moment a bit. I was assuming you were going to take one, so I was going to say that from Rebels, Not Twilight of the Apprentice.
Ooh.
I was gonna go for season 2, episode 2. This is like right at the end of the first episode of season 2.
Okay.
Vader shows up,
I
but
feel cold.
yeah, in season 2, episode 2, there's the fight there outside while they're trying to escape.
Yeah.
And he just has no problem with Ezra and Kanan at all. They drop walkers on him, to which he just like pushes them up and just stands up.
Yeah.
And I love Ezra has a line and it says, "If that won't kill him, what will?" And Kanan goes, "Not us,
Not us."
and they take off. But the fight in that moment there, like,
Yeah.
why I love Twilight of the Apprentice. And I love like what it does with like Ahsoka and a lot of the story and stuff too. And you were mentioning like him flying down on his little TIE fighter stuff. Like I love all that too. But this one also, like that one, like they're kind of standing up to him a little bit.
Yeah.
This one is like they are not. This is another one of those kind of like, this is how scary he can be and how you guys stand no chance against this guy.
Yeah.
Kind of like what Cal I think feels eventually from him too. But also in that same episode, he flies in on his own to take on the fleet of rebels and slow them down while the Star
like, the
Destroyers
skid.
get there.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, and he does a flip around, like he flies really cool. But if you're talking about like the apology accepted, or they get away from Bespin and he kind of like doesn't do anything, when Hera escapes and they lightspeed away and they tractor beam Vader's TIE fighter instead, and that one stupid, was it Constantine, I think?
Constantine,
right?
Admiral Constantine.
Yeah, and it was like, oh, release him immediately, and he's like, don't worry, it wasn't your fault. But Lord Vader doesn't know that. And then, like, I'm like, oh my gosh,
He
this
threw him under the Vader bus.
But it kind of makes me think of that same, like, why is he so afraid of Vader? Well, one, Constantine's kind of inept, doesn't do a very good job anyway, doesn't listen.
I know.
But two, like, if you've seen Vader, just how often does he just kill?
Right.
Nita
was an Imperial with honor. He's like, I'll take responsibility. No one else here is gonna get. What's he gonna do? Kill me?
Yeah,
like.
right?
But Constantine's like, yeah, he'll kill you. I ain't taking responsibility. Fuck that.
Yeah, exactly. But you know what? The Emperor's not as forgiving.
That is true. He
That's
is
another
not.
line that he says at one point
Yeah.
where I'm like, forgiving?
Yeah.
All right.
Like, he's funnier, but he's not as forgiving.
Yeah. But no, but that
Okay.
I don't know, it might be cheating to say that episode, because like there's some Vader moments throughout it,
Yeah.
but like that's when he just like the Apprentice lives. and
I'll allow it. You can have all that. As
just
well.
that whole episode, yeah. Because like the sensing of him, that's when Ahsoka's like
Yeah.
the screen. Oh man, I love all of that too. And like you said, like Vader moments in some of the Disney era stuff is like some of my favorite stuff. And Rebels might be my favorite Star Wars, maybe. Like just what it does for like in the middle, but it's not directly tied to the Skywalkers. But like you definitely feel like, okay, here's what the Inquisitors are. Here's how scary Vader can be. Here's some story from Ahsoka. Here's the creation of the rebellion. Like you get so many different aspects just in that one series that I really like. So. And Admiral Thrawn, like there's so much good stuff in that show.
Yeah. My number 2?
Yeah.
All right. I had to wrestle with my number 1 and number 2, like hard.
Oh man.
And I'm still I'm only just now making the decision to put this at number 2 because one, you set me up so perfectly, so I can do the whole episode. It's from Rebels. Twilight of the Apprentice. Twilight of the Apprentice is one of my favorite Darth Vader things ever. Rebels, as you said, has great Vader moments. It also was the first time we had James Earl Jones acknowledge Ahsoka.
Yeah.
The Apprentice lives.
Yeah.
And I remember when we watched that live, like that was such a moment because it was like one of our first, like now we don't think about it. Oh yeah, they bring in all the people from cartoons and stuff and people don't care anymore. But like just having him in this cartoon, talking about this cartoon was a religious experience for me.
Sure, I get what you mean.
It brought such authenticity when he did that. And then Twilight of the Apprentice happens. And it's not just, hey, it's cool when Darth Vader shows up. It's, hey, it's an amazing story when Darth Vader shows up because everything bounces off of him in that episode. And he has some of the coolest lines that, James Earl Jones himself got to deliver, which is like, I'm not afraid of you. Then you will die braver than most. What
great
a
line. I love that.
I love that line so much. But if I'm forced to pick one moment from Twilight of the Apprentice, it is Matt Lanner voicing Darth Vader in the moment.
Well, there's like that one moment too where it's like kind of both, right? Isn't there a moment with like Ahsoka, but it kind of has a James and Matt like sound to it?
You hear it when he says Ahsoka.
It's like breaking
Ahsoka.
out.
It's like, I won't leave you, Anakin. Not this time. And he turns. and you expect James's voice, but you hear Matt's.
Mm-hmm.
Then you will die. So good. Because, again, I love the moments when you can be subtle and I can try to guess what's going on under the mask. But every once in a while, or I should say twice, we've broken through it and we've actually seen Anakin's corpse speak.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And those are always powerful moments. And Ahsoka's reaction to it is so visceral. And I would have put that at my number one, if not for another. So I'll get to it.
If not for another.
Yep.
All right. Well, do I take that one?
you can feel free if you want.
I'm trying to think. Gong, 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 gong. Josh Tate with a super chat who said, my all-time Vader moment favorite has to be the Obi-Wan show half-mask moment. You didn't kill Anakin Skywalker. I did. Mm-hmm. It hits so hard. That one has also been one that I've thought about a lot, too, because, like, the Obi-Wan series, like, it has to confront this Obi-Wan Vader kind of stuff, and I do really enjoy.
I'll just take it from you. This is my number one.
Oh, this
my
is
number one is the confrontation of Obi-Wan and Vader, specifically Hayden Christensen performance. But like, I mean, every line in that is a banger.
Yeah.
But I especially like, I am not your failure, Obi-Wan. You didn't kill Anakin Skywalker. I did. It's so good. And I started this talking about how I think that separation is bullcrap. That's how much I love this.
Sure, yeah, because that is there. Like, that's Vader saying, I killed Anakin Skywalker. Which
that is the lie.
But
it's so good because Ewan McGregor responds to it so heartbreakingly. Yeah. You know?
And it leads into, like, in A New Hope when you get to, like, I had a pupil, you know, and, like, till Vader killed him. You know, that's essentially where that stems from, too. Like, and I feel in that moment from Ewan McGregor, like, into Alec Guinness, like, this is why he believes that. He's trying to reach Anakin, and he's done it, and he just can't. There's no Anakin left there, and he believes that, you know?
Yeah. It's just I was sitting there going, like, my favorite Darth Vader moment is from the Obi-Wan show. Which, I mean, I like the Obi-Wan show. I don't love all of it, but there are moments that I mean, Vader versus Reva, right? He doesn't even pull out his lightsaber, you know?
No.
Pulling this, you know, the thing out of the sky. Yeah. And all the amazing things that we've already talked about. I already had one of them on here, you know? But that moment with the red and blue lightsaber going in and out, which is something they discovered on set because they had the illuminate. Like, that's not something that they, like, hey, we thought about this and know what we're going to do. I love a happy accident and them just being like, hey, guys, could we play with this? And it's
this looks so
one
cool.
of the most visceral, emotional things in the world, you know? Yeah. And it's happening on set. That's such great art. I love when you can do that, when you can just capture something in the moment. But, yeah, I mean, Anakin Skywalker is gone. I am what remains. I think that's the type of thing that makes me far more okay with this idea that Anakin and Vader are different people. Yeah. Like, because he's rationalizing to himself that, like, I'm not there. That's who Vader is. Vader isn't another person inside that suit. He's all that's left of Anakin, and Anakin has abandoned himself, you know? It's crazy. It's like Vader, like, arrives into this body not knowing who he is. Like, that personality. But that is a lie. Yeah. That is a belief Anakin has about himself. It's just so interesting. But that's my number one. Yeah. I mean, if he believes that Anakin's dead, if he believes it, then what else is Obi-Wan going to do, right? Yeah. If there is, like, no chance that you can get him back. And I also, it's funny that my number one, number two are literally a different side of Vader is opened up, and you get to see his mask, you know? Yeah. Here's Hayden, here's Matt kind of thing. Yeah. I mean, I would think that I would want to say that, like, that moment was diminished because I'd already seen something like that in Ahsoka, but it doesn't. It doesn't diminish. I watch it all the time, and to the point where I literally put it on my number one over the original trilogy, over Rebels, over everything else. It's crazy. Yeah. I mean, I also really love Twilight the Apprentice. Don't get me wrong, but yeah, I'm very satisfied with my number one choice now that you've forced me to do it. And the super chat also made it very relevant. Yeah, that helps there. Thank you so much. Someone else having a good one. Well, then I'll go with my number one as being I'll go with the hallway of Rogue One. I think it's also one of the coolest, if not one of the scariest moments of Vader, and also one of the most extra moments. Like, how do you get in that dark hallway, not breathing? Yeah. You know, with all his lights off. Yep. Turns his stuff off. You know, like, hang on, I gotta wait. Shh, quiet. Like, walk in here real quick. Yeah. No one knows. Oh my God, they notice. Okay, they're coming close. Let's breathe.
let's turn on the lightsaber. Now kill them all. You know, like that's what. Yep. Like in the moment,
the red
visually,
light turns on.
it's so cool. And then trying to think like, well, what did Vader have to do in order to do that? It feels so extra for Vader, but he does that kind of stuff all the time.
Yeah.
But no, then
the music.
Yeah, the music is one of my favorite parts. The music is so good. The terror is so good. Him just ripping through. That one guy just pounding on the door.
Take it!
Help me! Help us out!
Help us!
Yeah, like oh man, it's
I love
so
that
good.
too. He doesn't say help me. He says help us.
Help us, yeah. But yeah, no, the music, it's that slowed down. Bum, bum,
Dun, 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 dun.
I love it so much.
Dun,
Like
dun, dun, dun.
that
That song is called Hope.
It's called Hope
because it ends with hope.
Oh, that's true. It's like what did we what did you bring us? What did we get? Like hope.
Hope. Yeah. No, that's what a moment. I mean that I would have went and seen Rogue One a couple times, but that scene is responsible for at least one extra time to go see it.
Sure,
I gotta go see that in theater again. They could have, and we all would have loved it if he turned on his lightsaber, like and it just cut, and then you just saw a bunch of dead rebels, and we would have been like, "Oh, this is the greatest thing I've ever seen." But they don't. They're like, "No, you're gonna see it, and you're gonna understand." And anybody that's watching A New Hope for the first time after this, when he walks onto the Tantive 4, you're gonna be like, "I know what that guy can do."
Sure. Yeah. And like having that, and then the Tantive 4 when he walks in, like now you're a little bit more scared. But
it also kind of puts you a little bit on like Vader's side when like Leia's like, "We didn't do anything." He's like, "I just saw you.
I was right here.
I watched you go.
I saw you.
That was you. That wasn't another blockade runner.
You fell out of that ship and took off, and I was standing there staring at you. I saw you get
you were
away.
on a diplomatic mission."
Yeah.
And he throws the captain. I hate this.
Yeah.
It's like the only times you actually see Vader like super pissed off in the movie.
Yeah. But no, I think like that's one of those things that in the original trilogy, whether through limitations or just like what story they were wanting to make sure they got through, like you kind of don't get some of those moments. Like there's so many, like we talked about Imperials, so many moments of those people getting killed. Not that he's not intimidating and scary and you feel like, well, I can't really stand up against him. But there's lots of times where he just walks on with stormtroopers.
Yeah.
And it's the stormtroopers doing more of the killing and the terrible stuff. But this is him by himself just tearing through rebels with ease. You know? Like I love when he lifts the one guy up and then just like doesn't even look and just slashes at him.
Yeah.
And then keeps going. Like I don't know. It's a really good scene, and it adds that terror element that I do kind of want for Vader, so that he seems so much scarier in other moments of Star Wars too.
Agreed. Yeah. And again, both of our number ones are Disney moments.
Sure.
You know? I don't think people think about that enough. Like, especially people that really dislike it. I was trying to do some research, looking at some other people's lists, seeing what they were saying, why they thought what they thought, just because I'm interested. And so many people are like, "I don't like Disney, but," and like 5 moments
Disney,
are on their list. You know?
A lot of good
I think that's even better. Like, I can't help but put it on there. It's pretty fun.
Sure.
Yeah.
Like, I've seen people talk about how excited they were for like Darth Maul at the end of Solo, even if they didn't enjoy the Solo movie.
Yeah.
They're like, this reveal was so cool, and I want to know more of that. But they didn't enjoy the rest of it. I think like Rogue One, like I know a lot of people that enjoyed Rogue One, but I think you're not really waiting and expecting that to happen when it gets there, and it's such a surprise moment when you're like, oh man,
Just
this
when
is
his
what we're
ship
doing.
shows up and everybody runs into it. You know?
Yeah.
That's crazy a moment too. I love that movie. That has probably the best on-screen like space dogfight too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, they went hard with that. I love it.
I will say one of my honorable mentions wasn't in a canon sense.
Ooh, okay.
One of my favorite moments of Vader was the very beginning of like Force Unleashed.
Yeah.
You know, like
the tutorial level.
Getting to play as Vader is I think a fun thing because like you're just like an unstoppable force, and that lets you feel like you were an unstoppable force.
Yeah.
Where like sometimes you get Vader in like the Battlefront games, and then you die, you know. But it shouldn't be that way. You know what I mean? So I think that Force Unleashed did that.
It had the feeling of, you know, like sometimes you play a sequel to a game and like, oh man, I spent the first game like getting all these powers and all these power ups and I'm awesome, and then the first scene they like depower you.
Yeah.
So then you have to do it all over again. But this game, like, it does like the same thing effectively, where it like shows you all the things you're going to be able to do as Starkiller, you know.
Yeah.
But you're doing it as Darth Vader.
You're someone else.
You're
who already
literally
has that.
learning it from Darth Vader, and then you play Darth Vader's Secret Apprentice.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's a cool meta.
They're not
stuff
ripping
about that.
you of it, but in a game sense they are. But they're you're playing the character who can. So I really like that a lot.
Yeah. Good alternate.
But yeah, I wanted to mention that when I was thinking about that, I was like, you know what? I always
Yeah.
had fun. I don't want to say fun because I kill a lot of Wookiees and stuff too.
Sure.
But like as a Vader thing, I thought that was always one of my favorite things that you just get to do. So.
Yeah. And I successfully was able to mention all of my alternates. So.
Oh, were you?
Yep.
Well, good, Eric. I'm so.
Some of them
happy
were a
for
lot
you.
less natural than others, but I was able to.
I guess I have one more thing I didn't mention.
Okay.
That I just thought was like when I was thinking about it, I'm like, I don't know if this is one of my favorite moments, but whenever Obi-Wan and Vader are fighting in Episode 4, and then Obi-Wan lets go and just vanishes, I find it funny, weird. I don't know that Vader's like, I don't know what the hell happened, and he goes over and he steps on his robes.
He steps on it.
You
What's
know?
he expecting to do when he steps on it?
Yeah, it's like, is he still in here?
I mean,
you
it's
know?
a matter of disbelief.
Yeah.
Or like maybe there's a hole.
Yeah. Like, I was just like,
he jumped down.
like it's like he's stepping. Like, is this a trick? You know? I don't know.
Yeah.
Like I was just thinking about like when I was thinking about Vader, I'm like, why did he step on his robes?
That's a movie thing. Like you got to tell 8-year-olds there's nothing there.
Yeah.
And Vader acknowledges there's nothing there. It's the same reason where it's like it doesn't make sense for a character to do this sometimes, but they do because that's the shot.
Sure.
You know? It's like why aren't they just holding it down here like anybody else would? It's like, well, then the audience wouldn't see it.
Yeah, sure.
You know?
I guess he could have like picked it up. You know?
Just
I'm like, huh? You know?
snaps of Stormtrooper going
But
by
I think
with it.
also one of those things you can't see his face. So
Yeah.
like, what is he thinking in that moment?
yeah.
You lose, right? So like,
Yeah.
when I was just thinking about, it, I'm like, why is he stepping on that robe?
Yeah.
I don't know.
And it's the luck/brilliance of George Lucas and that design of Vader that we can answer what is he thinking in that moment. And that might not be at all what George Lucas would have said if I asked that question when they were shooting it.
Yeah.
You know? But I can change it later.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's like
great stuff.
it's like adding Ewan McGregor stuff to Alec Guinness and A New Hope, right? Like, oh, now I get more of what he's feeling, even though that must not have been what it was when he started it, you know? I do want to say a super chat from New Gen Nerd who
Yeah.
says, I can't wait for you guys to read through the Marvel Vader comics runs. Some of the moments there are my absolute favorites.
There are some that I know just because I studied for the Schmodown and I'm on the Darth Vader page. I'm going to see some stuff, and many of them I've seen on other people's lists.
Gotcha,
And I'm
okay.
excited to get to them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't really know a lot of them. There's one scene that I think's in a comic, but I don't know if it's canon or if it's Legends. But other than that, like I would like to see some more
Gotcha.
Vader moments and stuff too. And that was
Yeah.
one of the thoughts I had too, where it's like, if I know any of these, should I have them on there? Since like, well, that's not James Earl Jones's voice or any of
Sure,
that
yeah,
kind of
yeah.
stuff too. But I'm like, but it's still Vader, right? So. But yeah, but since I haven't read a lot of them, I kind of I stuck to the movies, the games, the shows, and the books that I have read.
My favorite thing about my 1 and 2 is that I have James Earl Jones, Matt Lanner, and Hayden Christensen in it.
Sure,
you know, they all portrayed Vader's voice.
They're all in
They're
those
all in my
moments.
top 2.
Yeah, okay. Another one of my favorite moments, I guess, too, it isn't necessarily a Vader moment, but I do love in Ahsoka whenever you have, like, the World Between Worlds, and you have, like, Anakin walking away in the Clone
Yeah.
Wars, and you get that quick, like,
You
to
do.
Vader, and then back to Anakin.
Sure.
It is a real cool little glimpse. It's
Yeah.
not like a favorite Vader moment, per se, but
and
I just
I would
love
technically
getting that
say
look.
it's an Anakin moment. It's Anakin using Darth Vader's specter.
Sure, I
It's
get
not
what you mean.
Vader coming out.
Sure. No, I just love that glimpse of Vader there and
Yeah,
getting
me
to
too.
see him.
And do you think when Ahsoka sees that, like obviously she's in some type of like otherworldly visionary area,
Yeah.
but later in that, Anakin's like, "Are you still on that? All right, back to the beginning," and he brings his Vaderness out. But when she sees him in the war walking away, he doesn't want her to see that, right? Is that just you think that was
It's
in
like-
her mind, or is that something that he's showing?
Sure. Is it her being haunted?
Yeah.
Maybe. It could be.
I-
I don't know how the World Between Worlds works with that kind of stuff either.
Yeah.
So I don't know if it's like what's in her head and he's trying to like, I want you
Yeah.
to get this out, that this is not tainting everything. Just because you're my apprentice,
Yeah.
that doesn't mean that you are also going to become evil or
I
anything,
love the
you know?
idea that it's in her head, and I think that's probably is the answer because it's just like the cave of evil, like what's in there, only what you take with you. Ahsoka and Anakin, they only address what's on her mind.
Yeah.
It's not like new information comes out and he's like, saying something that's not relevant or anything like that. So it could still be all in her head, but why is that not real?
Yeah. No, I think that's what I was kind of getting to.
Yeah.
Just that Anakin is tainted to her, you know? It's just a like a curse that she's afraid is going to continue through the generations of Jedi, right?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. In the old legends, Leia is far less forgiving of Darth Vader than Luke is, and has a hard time with accepting that that's her father. But eventually, she will have accepted it and name her third child Anakin.
Yeah. Interesting.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
All right. Well, I think that's going to be our conversations for Vader, and I mean, I like a lot of these moments we talked about.
Yeah. I love that when we do these top lists, it just gives me an excuse to go and watch some of my favorite stuff.
Sure.
Which I already do, but I have to do it.
And sometimes think about Star Wars, I don't know, differently, specifically.
Yeah.
Right. Like thinking about like one character specifically. Sometimes I don't look at that. I look at like maybe I look at other characters and I don't think about certain ones.
Yeah.
So it's always fun to go through those and be like, what are my favorite moments? What are some moments I'm not thinking about?
Yeah, sure.
And like trying to like look into a whole bunch, like going into like even going to YouTube and be like, show me every Vader moment from the original trilogy, you know, and just watching just Vader moments and trying to be like, you know what, I really like this. I really like this. Oh, I didn't even realize this. You know, I forgot all about this one. So,
and
it
personally,
is fun.
I do actually like going and looking at people's top lists, like what they think their favorite moments are, because even if I don't agree or if I would order mine differently, like that's their list. Like they know what they like the most. So I actually quite enjoyed that. You can kind of learn about people in a certain way by how they rank their Vader moments.
Yeah.
Like what's important to them. I would love to have like a debate with someone that believes the other way, that Anakin and Vader are different people. I think it'd be fun.
A debate of that they
like,
are?
Have like a real hard debate
How
about
different are these two people?
Yeah.
And are
Because
they
I mean, some
different
people that like they'll it's 100%. They're two very separate people, and you should not consider them the same. But I'm on the other side, you know. I think it'd be kind of fun to.
Well, what's the psychological aspect of that too? Where like, you know, people who have like multiple personalities, and stuff like that too, right?
Yeah.
Like, I would imagine at some point that happens for a reason. In this one here, like, is it a matter of like maybe Vader, he's knighted as Vader, but what if through killing all of these Jedi, through the Obi-Wan Kenobi like battle and stuff and losing that, like what if he does kind of split into like a Vader persona, where like Anakin kind of just vanishes when Vader shows up, and it is kind of like that personality thing.
I would my counter to that, because I love it, I really do. Again, my number one is that, but my counter to that is that's what he believes. That's not what it is.
But how do you know that?
Because he's one person.
Well, sure, but so are people with multiple personalities.
Well, yeah, but
too,
that's
right?
what they. I mean,
they don't believe, right?
Well,
or do they believe?
There's a lot of evidence. There's a lot of speculation about exactly how consciousness works, and is it how it is, or is it how your brain believes it is? You know, the way that we go from there's things that we know, but all of those things have to filter through your beliefs. And if you have mental health problems, your beliefs are affected by that as well. So like, even though your brain has a split and you believe you have two personalities, like that doesn't mean that the two personalities are quote unquote real. It's that you think it is. And I'm not saying this is how it is, just that these are the speculations. And I like to kind of throw that on stuff that I know, which is Anakin Vader, you know?
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
So So there's speculations is what you're taking as like.
Yeah,
this
I mean,
is
when it comes to brain chemistry, when it comes to consciousness, when it comes to that type of stuff, we're still very in the weeds of like what exactly is going on, you know? So someone that went through extreme trauma like Anakin did,
sure,
you know, he has a mental break, but to say that it creates a separate person, I think can devalue like what happened to Anakin. I and again, this is just preference stuff too. Like I like the idea that Anakin is running from himself and creates a fake person to take all the blame.
See, I think it's interesting to have it where like that's an entity that has come out, but then like the real Anakin really is like almost in a I don't know if I want to dive. Do I want to dive into that idea? If you've seen Get Out, it kind of deals with kind of the same idea. Like deep down in there could be an Anakin, and every once in a while it can push out.
Yeah.
And then once we get into episode 6 of like Luke and saving him, like Anakin defeats Vader and breaks out of that, but it's the last moments of both of them. You know,
there's evidences of traumatic brain injuries in the real world where like, you know, before the traumatic brain injury, this person was straight edge, never had a lick of alcohol, never took drugs, never cursed, never spoke out of turn. But after the brain injury, like switched their beliefs. They were no longer a Christian. They were now an atheist, and they like cussed all the time. They were quick to anger. You know, like
Sure.
a whole personality emerges.
But that's not them then, is what you're saying.
What
right?
I'm saying is that's a result of traumatic trauma.
Sure.
Traumatic trauma. that's a result
Traumatic
of trauma on a person.
Sure.
You know, but like the result is they're is the
result they became a new person, right?
I don't know exactly, because they're different. They're the same person. It's the same continuity.
It's the same body.
It's the same continuity of experience. The same brain is considering its consciousness, but it believes different things about itself.
Sure.
You
I
know?
mean, you go into the same thing with amnesia or something like that, where
Exactly,
someone
yeah.
loses who they are
Sure,
and then
yeah.
they become someone else,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But
Amnesia is a hard thing when you're talking about real world because it's just so rare, you know?
sure.
But in TV and movies, like, do we go to TV and movies how amnesia works, or like real amnesia, you know?
I get what you mean. Sure.
Yeah, sure. But anyway, I don't think I'm right. I actually think that I'm wrong in some of the things that I say. But
Yeah, I think
that-
you're wrong too.
I think it'd be a fascinating debate, and one that's not done in like bad faith, where I'm trying to tell someone they're wrong about something. You know,
Sure.
Like I want to learn more about how people feel about Darth Vader and Anakin.
Yeah. Yeah. Because like there is some interesting aspects of having Anakin kind of be killed or maybe buried deep
Yeah.
inside that mind, that psyche.
Sure. Yeah.
And it is another person that comes out and
Yeah.
is doing this kind of thing. But it's another person created through trauma. Kind of like what's it called? Doom Patrol, right? But once again, we're going into TV shows and movies and that kind of stuff too. But like
Which is fine. I mean, there's stories.
there's other kind of like characters or
Yeah.
people or entities created to protect the like real person.
Yeah.
This is kind of like in the same thing where it's like, well, no, Anakin didn't do that. Vader did that,
Sure.
and that's why this person
Yeah.
exists.
I think I just thematically love the idea that Luke, when he's talking to Vader, but he does talk about how like Anakin Skywalker was my father, and I still think that you're in there, and there's still good in you. Like he's talking to Vader, and I think he's right.
Yeah.
Because Anakin is as much part of Vader as Vader is a part of Anakin, if you do want to separate them and go that route. But yeah, I think that'd be some fascinating stuff.
Yeah. But also, like, you could be talking to, like, that person, and it's
Mm-hmm.
like, you're not just all Vader. There is good in you, and I want to reach that Anakin that's deep down in there.
Yeah.
But it also could be like, no, that person's just trying to push out.
Yeah.
I don't want to be. I don't know. Yeah.
Like, it's one of those things, too, like, do you think Anakin's always listening for someone that reaches out to him? Or is it only because he was so beat down, his hands cut off, and, Palpatine's like, kill him, Vader's all pissed off, and then Anakin comes out? Or is it there's always some, like, process of Anakin back there just waiting to see if someone actually cares,
Sure. Well, I think, like, in that, you could have, like, there's a crack that occurs
Sure.
during that, like, it's too late for me,
Yeah.
son, where it's like, there's a moment of Anakin coming out, pushing out of there.
Sure.
And maybe Vader's getting pushed back a little bit more. So, like,
Yeah.
Vader's a little bit
Yeah.
weaker of an entity, I suppose,
Sure,
in that
yeah.
moment, versus, like, I don't know, those moments where you have, like, here's a kid who's crushed by a car and that mom's picking up that whole car so that they can get their kid out. Like, it can almost turn to that where it's
Yeah.
like Anakin pushes out and pushes Vader out to save his
Sure.
son when he sees, like, ultimately
Yeah.
my son's going to be killed right in front of me
Yeah.
right now.
But, like, to that point, like, that woman that picks up that car, like, always has that strength available to her, but your brain limits how much strength you can put out. So, like, is Anakin always there, but his brain is limiting him?
No, that's what I
know?
think. I think Anakin
Yeah.
is there.
Sure,
I
yeah.
think he's buried underneath the persona that is Vader.
Sure.
That,
yeah.
That's where I would probably go with
Yeah.
it. But maybe we can dive into that
I would
on
love to.
another time
Yeah.
and make that
Yeah.
a whole thing or something.
Yep.
I don't know. Knuber with the ideas of multiple personalities in one head, a la James McAvoy in Split. Yeah.
Yep.
Vader is Anakin projecting what he wants people to see with a bit of his own anger. Yeah, I can see that. He is too broken by Palpatine, says Olo Chugu.
Sure.
I don't know if I say that right.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think so. He's too broken by Palpatine. We can try to prioritize what we think is most responsible for why Vader and Anakin are the way they are, but Palpatine's definitely at the top of that list.
Oh, yeah.
I will say, I think a lot of why Vader emerges is because of Anakin's shame, not necessarily his pain, But, I mean, he also had incredible pain. It's not to discount the trauma, not just mental trauma he went through, but the physical trauma he went through.
There's a lot of physical trauma he
Yeah.
went through, right?
Absolutely.
No, I definitely think like a mixture of that, like not just from Palpatine, but from also like, I mean, there's got to be some trauma from like, I'm going to march in the Jedi Temple and you get to like, what are we going to do? You know? And it's like, that's got to be a traumatic kind of thing that Anakin, who has now been knighted as Vader, like has done. But you get to a point where like, even, you know, you killed Padme. Like, I think like that entity of Anakin has to push out Anakin to protect himself and be like, no, Anakin didn't do it. Vader did it, you know, and Vader killed Anakin doing so.
It's interesting talking about Vader, especially as a different personality, because for a moment, for a day, he was Darth Vader with all of Anakin's wants and dreams and desires. You know, like, I will rule the galaxy. You will be my wife. You know, we'll remake, you know, things will be the way we want them to be.
Yes.
You know, like I do like that idea of a Vader that's not born from trauma but born from choice.
I think similar to the idea that we didn't put in our top Vader moments, that kind of stuff, is because that, similar to what Obi-Wan says, is that's Anakin still.
Sure, yeah.
Like, I don't think Vader exists there. Vader is the title he's given.
Yeah.
It's the entity of Vader is made, I think, after the suit, the damage, and the death of Padme has occurred.
Yeah.
Is when
it's
I would
just,
say,
it's interesting
like,
to me
that's
that
when it's
there's a
made.
Darth Vader, like a canon Darth Vader that's not that, you know?
Sure, yeah.
Yeah, I think
yeah, he is
kinda
just,
cool.
it's you know, it's the Chancellor Palpatine, you know? It's like, that's the title he has.
Yeah.
But there's really something more that we, you know,
Sure.
you don't know later that comes out. So...